So this is the new mellotron, right?
Yeah, this is the mellotron.
And what makes...
It always makes what, sorry? That's a choir on there, because you can change the different things, whatever you want. But that's probably the most famous. Except it stays in tune, which is quite nice.
What makes this thing better than all the sample mellotrons you know?
The one that's what's really clever about this one is because they've multi-sampled it. So it actually, they've sampled all the faults of the original one. Okay. I know it might sound a bit daft. So the strings aren't even.
Yeah.
Some are
and that,
different,
and
that's what makes the sound. Yeah. What they've done, they've sampled every note off of the thing, but hundreds of samples on every note. So they've got, for example, that is like a different tonal quality, exactly as the original tapes were. That's where they've been really clever. So you get, it must have cost them a fortune to do it, but it's worth it. And of course, the great advantage, of course, you can MIDI it up. So I can MIDI it up to, to other instruments and things. This was the wonderful 01 Pro X that I was telling you about. This is old. This is close on 30 years old, this machine. But it's built like a, I mean, it takes two people to lift it. It's built like a brick, and we've got a rude word for it. But a lot of the sounds from this were taken from the original M1. This is the O1.
Yeah.
One of the first instruments to have a great sort of choir sound, and when you consider this is a choir sound from nearly 30 years ago, this is way ahead of its time.
And it is a sampled choir sound.
It's a sampled choir, yeah, it's a sampled choir, but it was way ahead of its time because it was early days of sampling back then, and they tended to sound a bit not quite right, because there was only, I think it was some of it was only 8-bit sampling and some was 16-bit sampling, but they worked so hardcore with their different sounds and the things on this. And they were also one of the first to do the old famous stabs, which I think somewhere else. They were way ahead of their time when they did all that kind of thing.
Could they hold a little longer samples then also? Because
yeah, I mean this was sort of like the Rolls Royce of the keyboards at the time. Very few bands took them out because they're very heavy. But this has been a major part of my rig for, oh crikey, 30 years nearly. And it's just I've not found anything that does, and it's got a nice keyboard action. It's a piano action. Yeah. So it actually feels like it's not a light.
It has
weighted keys.
Yeah.
So I've got a mixture of weighted keys and non-weighted keys. The old Minimo. Just unbeatable.
What did the Moog do what you couldn't do?
What the Moog did was gave us an instrument that would cut through concrete and gave the guitarist a run for their money. Because right up until the Mini Moog appeared, if you were in a band and it came to your solo, it was you had an organ or something, that was all you had, then the band would have to go really quiet. And you could see the guitarist going, oh dear, poor little fellow, and you do your solo, and then you finish, and then they'd all whack it up again, and you just like stand there looking like that. This came along, and it just cut through everything. And I can remember some various guitarists that I have played with who weren't used to the Minimo when it first went on stage, and it came to your solo or something, and they go, and it came in, they just went, what on earth? And they hated you because you could cut through anything. So what Bob gave keyboard players is priceless. He gave us a chance to outdo the guitarists. How great is that?
It is great.
I loved this machine when it came out.
This
in
is
a Roland JD800.
Yeah.
And they made it so that you could actually, a bit like a mini Moog, play around with it while you were playing. And I love this machine because it's another good. It's a great, another good like solo instrument as well to play with. But it never really caught on because they brought it out in that period of time where kids were buying, or musicians were buying keyboards, found a sample and wanted to press one note and everything happened, a bit like sort of over here. So if I find something suitable. You know, they didn't want to do so, they just wanted to be able to do. You know, that kind, yeah, that's what they wanted. So when they got this, they went, why doesn't, was that it? I'll have one of these then, please. You know, and that's what happened, you know. The instruments are much more reliable. Everything's more reliable when you work, and also, to some extent, we know what we're doing. Back then, you didn't. It was sort of, well, I wonder if this is going to work. We were arriving at venues nobody had played before. Yeah. No, I mean, I did one show with Yes in Chicago. I can remember very, very well indeed, in 1973. And we had some stuff on English power and some on American power. And somehow, they, just before the actual show, when power had been turned off for whatever reason it was, and we had made, the crew we had at the time made a huge mistake. Everything we had was on American plugs, because of the other. So, and somehow, the one for the English lot and the one for the American lot went round the other way, and there was. This was just before we went on stage, and there was quite bad smell of things as things went a bit sort of strange, to put it mildly. And one by one, anything that did work stopped immediately. I mean, it was just, and there was that smell of sort of acrid electric burning. And I'm going around all the instruments. I had about 20 instruments at the time, nothing, no midis and things back in the 70s. And eventually I realised I had nothing. The only thing I had was the acoustic piano, which had a mic in it, and a tambourine. And that was it. So I got this enormous rig, and I had the acoustic piano and a tambourine. And somewhere I've still got a review from that concert where the journalist said, Wakeman was not his usual flamboyant self. Which I thought just about...
So you were there with your cape on it?
I had my cape and bits on the piano and bits where it was just pointless because it couldn't work. I just rattled a tambourine for the entire 3-hour show. Yeah, and he said, yeah, not as flamboyant as usual. Balance is all to shit, but